Okay, so this morning for our breakfast, it's Saturday morning and it's actually way too late because we stayed up late last night visiting with friends. The s'more dessert was a huge hit. So I'm going to continue with my Pinterest trend. We're going to do some Skillet Apple Pie Biscuits for breakfast this morning. So yesterday's dessert was a Pinterest dessert, and so this morning's breakfast is going to be a Pinterest breakfast, and then I've got a Pinterest dinner for this evening. So we're going to get started on the biscuits. I'm going to have to straighten up my kitchen a little bit first because it's a little disorganized, but we'll get started on breakfast. But first, coffee. It's the first order of business, and I can't do anything until I have coffee this morning, so we're going to do coffee first. So I was raised in California till I was 12, and then my parents moved us back here to Missouri, and my sister discovered in one of her visits back, she discovered this cute little coffee place, and I think they grow their own coffee. I don't know, but it's really good. It's called Mariposa Coffee Company. Anyway, so I ordered some here a while back, and I'm going to show you what I got. Yeah, when I buy coffee, I buy coffee. So I got this one, which is amazing, Southern Pecan, and then I've got chocolate raspberry, delicious, and then Mariposa blueberry is what I'm going to do this morning. A little short on coffee beans this morning. Thought I ground up enough yesterday and I did not, so I'm going to have to grind up a little bit more to make a half pot. Normally I have plenty because it's just one person in the morning for coffee because my husband's usually working. So to do half a pot for both him and I. And it smells so good. Okay, so first thing we gotta do is we gotta defrost some buttermilk biscuits. And these are frozen. You can make your own, but I'm gonna do frozen because it's faster. So I've preheated my oven to 375, and I'm gonna put these in an iron skillet and let them thaw out a little bit. Okay, something that saves me time, I always keep brown sugar, or well, it's just plain sugar. The recipe calls for brown sugar, but I'm not using brown sugar. I keep brown sugar and cinnamon on the ready because we do cinnamon toast. Sydney used to have it every morning when she was little. She doesn't ask for it very much anymore. So I'm just gonna put some in here, and then this recipe calls for some nutmeg, so I'm going to add nutmeg to that. All right, and then we melt some butter, a whole stick of butter, and then you dip the biscuits in butter and then roll them in the cinnamon sugar mixture. Okay, so you take apple pie filling and you dump it in a bowl and chop it up so that they're smaller pieces, and then we'll arrange those over the biscuits once we've dipped them in butter and cinnamon. Okay, so we just add a little bit of vanilla to the apples and then mix that in. Okay, so we're gonna put it all together now. Spray a little bit in all the pan. All right, and then you dip your thawed biscuits into the butter. And then into the brown. cinnamon and sugar mixture. And that's it. All right, and then you just take the remaining cinnamon and sugar and you sprinkle that over top. Super easy recipe, guys. I'm hoping it turns out good. I've never tried this one, so it could not turn out, and it may be the best thing ever. And then you dump the butter, the leftover butter, over top. All right, and then you bake it at 375 for about 30 minutes. And then we'll put a glaze over it, and then it's ready to serve. All right, so now I have time to finish my coffee and clean up the kitchen before breakfast. Amazing. Okay, so all we have left to do on this is to drizzle this glaze over the tops of these, and they will be ready to serve. It was a hit. Most of the plates look like this. Everyone loved it. Okay, so we've got breakfast finished, cleaned up. Go ahead and set out the meat for dinner. I used ground venison because Ben hunts, so I'm gonna need a pound of ground venison for tonight. We'll set that out now and we'll get started on dinner at around 3:30, 4 o'clock, somewhere in there. Anyways, lots to do today. So I can't put it off anymore. I've got like 4 loads of laundry to fold, so we're gonna do that today. Okay, so I'm going to make what I think is going to be a super easy meal. It's a cornbread taco bake. I'm not even sure what it's called. Anyways, I found it on Pinterest. So I'm going to mix up the cornbread, because you put the cornbread in an iron skillet, and then you bake that, and then you put ground beef over top of that, well, with taco seasoning. Anyway, so it looks super easy, and I like tacos, so I thought it might be fun to try this. We'll see. Okay, so I'm just gonna put the cornbread I'm gonna mix it up in this iron skillet. And it calls for vegetable shortening, but I'm going to use olive oil. Anyway, so we just mix it all up in one skillet, and I love this because it's just this, and then I'm gonna have to fry the meat in another one, so I'm only gonna have 2, so this is gonna be great. All right, and then we have 2 cups of cornmeal mix. It calls for 2 tablespoons of white sugar, but since I only have brown, I'm using what I have. And we got 1.5 cups of milk. And we got 1 egg. Okay, and then we just mix it up. So this goes in the oven and it bakes for about 8 minutes, according to the recipe, but we're probably gonna have to just see how it goes. So the next step is to fry up this. You can use ground beef if you want, but I'm using venison, so you need a pound of that. And you just fry it up like you would for tacos, with the taco seasoning and everything. I'm gonna fry it up using my favorite taco seasoning. While my ground beef cooks, I'm going to go ahead and prep your, it calls for a can of rotel. You can skip this step, but I do this step because my kids don't like chunks of tomato. So I always put my rotel through a food processor before I put it in anything. So we're gonna check on the cornbread. It looks it's still a little runny. So we're gonna have to cook it longer than 8 minutes. It's probably actually another 5. In the recipe, it calls for the you cook up an onion in some oil before, but again, my kids don't like chunks of onion either, so I just use a bunch of onion powder and garlic because it calls for fresh garlic, but I don't have any fresh garlic on hand, so I added plenty of that before I added the taco seasoning. Okay, so the cornbread looks good. It's about perfect. We'll just set that aside for now. Okay, so now we're going to add the rotel. And it calls for onion and chives cream cheese. All I have is plain cream cheese, so I'll probably add a little bit of onion and chive to this cream cheese just to flavor it up. And it calls for 4 ounces. So. Okay, so I'm just gonna add some chives to this cream cheese and some onion, since it called for onion and chives, cream cheese. Make sure I had onion and not garlic. All right, so I'm just gonna mix that in there. that in. You're supposed to drain your excess oil off of this. Since I'm using venison, there was next to no fat in there. Okay, so we sprinkle, it called for Colby Jack, but since I only have cheddar, I am putting cheddar cheese on there. All right, and then you pop it back in the oven until the cheese is melted. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, I've got my sidekick, Sydney, and she is going to cut up some of the vegetables for me. So Sydney's gonna cut up the vegetables for me so I can finish working on the cornbread part of this. Okay, so you just pour the taco meat over the cornbread after the cheese is melted. All right, and then you put the other cup of cheese, because it calls for 2 cups of cheese. You put the other cup of cheese over top of the meat. I had 3 open bags of cheese, so using them all up. And put this back in the oven and bake it until the cheese is melted, and then we pile on our vegetables and we serve it. It's very easy. It's a super easy recipe. Don't know if everybody's gonna like it, so we'll see.
Oh, my eyes.
Eyes burning?
Yes.
Yeah. Can't get that way. The onions are making Sydney's eyes water.
Can you like talk in broth?
Okay, so we're gonna take this out. And it looks awesome. This looks great. It's all bubbly. Now I'm going to get it served up onto plates.
There's enough room. But you don't have to wash the towels and stuff.
this, Sydney?
A scrunchie crown.
Scrunchie crown?
I have 62 scrunchies.
62 scrunchies.
I love my scrunchies.
Do you think you need more scrunchies?
Yes, definitely. I didn't even know I had. Now I just need a leather jacket. Scrunchies.
Sydney has a problem.
It's not a problem, it's an addiction.